Hey, everybody, I'm The Awakener. Welcome to my podcast. I am very blessed that you're part of this. Thank you for sharing my information. Thank you for subscribing to my podcast. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Now, we're going to get started. So, to get started here, I'm going to summarize things for you very, very simply. What is happening is not simple to understand, it's very, very complicated. You might think about the Bud Light guy that everyone's talking about. People are talking about racism, oppression, all kind of like these discussions and debates about like, should the government do this and we're leading toward bankruptcy and all the climate change. Really, what we're all talking about is this epic battle between communism and capitalism, and is the final battle, I should say, for this world or the future of the world. That is, what you're witnessing is there's an imperialistic US agenda, which everyone is so easily talks about. Oh my goodness, the war in Iraq and everything they did. Everyone is like, okay, there's more to the whole equation than just that. What is this imperialistic US agenda fighting? And they're fighting a covert communist conspiracy. This covert communist conspiracy is being aided by enemies of ours. Those enemies are our politicians. Our politicians are being blackmailed and extorted by foreign powers to basically complete the collapse of the Western world. The Western world is based on the individual. We believe that the individual has the right to success, the right to freedom. And actually, if you go along the right-wing side of things, the less government that we have will lead to actually anarchy. On their side, communism, they want complete and utter control over everything you possibly want. So much control that would lead to complete upheaval of society. These globalist people who are wealthy individuals who are probably pedophiles and Satan worshipers on Jeffrey Epstein's island are being extorted and blackmailed to basically serve up an agenda for us for control. They are obsessed with controlling every aspect of us. And this has been kind of a battle that's been happening for quite some time. Anyways, if you want to understand it, go to the website, theawakener.ca. Just read and study. I'll explain to you exactly what's happening. So we're here to tell you about this battle. We're here to show it to you. And we're here to dive a little bit deeper into what's happening than just talking about the Bud Light guy, the guy that collapsed, or the girl, who knows, that collapsed, Budweiser. So here we are. I have the Insider with me. Insider, how are you?
I'm doing great, Awakener. How are you doing?
I'm great. What's new with you?
Oh, so much is happening north of the border. So there's lots to talk about actually in the US and in Canada.
All right. Where do you want to start today? Do you want to start in Canada first?
It's up to you, whatever you feel like.
Okay, let's just go right to it. Let's start in the US today. So we're going to talk about a video that I posted recently, actually, on my Instagram, which is Warren Buffett. So if you don't know, the rich and elites already know what's happening. Warren Buffett basically pulled all his money out of a semiconductor company in Taiwan. Warren Buffett only makes those kind of decisions if he knows that something is up, and something is up. To kind of understand that, we've been talking about this covert communist conspiracy and what their goals have been over the last, since 1945, to basically whittle away the Western world and to gain control over us. Now, this is all happening covertly. So the enemy's biggest weapon that they have is actually not their nuclear missiles. It's their ideology and the way they can subvert nations, the way they can control us from within and take over. As you know, like if you listen to this podcast and listen to the show, the Insider and me have talked about this so many times. We believe that during Hillary's presidency, that was basically given to us, and nobody told you Trump was going to win. At the end of her presidency, there would have been a complete communist takeover of the Western world. This is being kind of organized in steps for everyone to witness, starting with this war that Zelensky is acting on behalf of the UN agenda to basically suck America and the Western world into a full thermonuclear shootout with the United States. And we've talked in great detail about how our government is then aiding the UN agenda by passing covert Chinese legislation in government, basically underneath, like, without anybody knowing. So we have evidence of this, obviously, with the police stations, the monitoring stations of Chinese spies, the I guess Bill C-18 or something like that, which is basically censoring the entire internet across Canada. You have the social scores that's been happening in Canada with Trudeau. So all this stuff relates to completely this kind of great awakening with Hunter Biden. Now that we've got Hunter Biden on the Insider, what was the latest that you saw with Hunter Biden?
So the latest with Hunter was that they had this incredible plea bargain deal arranged for him. And the judge was smart enough to realize that this was absolutely uncalled for. And even though the defense and the prosecutor have worked together on crafting this plea bargain deal, the judge looked at it and said, it's not accepted. So that goes thrown out the window. Now there's a separate agreement,
Right.
separate from the plea bargain, which they're viewing, which the Bidens are viewing as a contract, which basically said that Hunter is not going to be prosecuted for anything else that he's done before, not the gun charge, like all of this stuff, the gun charges and everything. So
But we know that there's far more charges than just the gun charges.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
But so any further charges, they've made a deal that he's not going to be charged, and the judge wasn't having anything to do with it. But the Biden side is viewing it as a contract separate from the plea bargain, and so they believe that it's enforceable. And I think they're going to be taking it to court. And then on top of it, you have Weiss, who arranged the plea bargain for Hunter Biden. An absolute disaster of a prosecutor is now all of a sudden put in by the DOJ as for a grand jury, which he's not supposed to be, because you can't have a government employee in that role. It has to be someone from the outside. So this is just a travesty of the legal system in the United States that we've never seen before.
Well, it's like, listen, we've been talking about this Hunter Biden case for quite some time, and we've been talking about how he's really the Pandora's box. The Pandora's box, if you had to describe it, is something when you open something, you can't unsee it. It kind of changes the world. So we've been talking about Hunter Biden's case specifically, how, Hunter Biden is connected to Patrick Ho, Devon Archer, connected to Barack Obama's presidency. And we talked about specifically Patrick Ho's case, where if you looked at the case that the government submitted to court, the government actually and the FBI had a FISA warrant on Patrick Ho, which probably had a FISA warrant on Devon Archer, a FISA warrant on Joe Biden, a FISA warrant on Barack Obama, believe it or not. So the spying that was happening, remember, FISA works both ways. The surveillance on Trump and the surveillance on Trump's associates was one, but the hidden surveillance that people are going to learn about is actually surveillance by the FBI on Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and crew. That is that there was a civil war already brewing underneath the scenes in Barack Obama's presidency. Now, people are going to say, oh, Awakener, how is that possible? Well, you just have to go online. You just have to go to Google. You have to type up FISA and then Hunter Biden's documents. And not Hunter Biden, Patrick Ho's documents. If you pull this up, you're going to know that the government was surveilling for quite some time. So this is the onus of what is happening. So all the stuff that is happening to Trump is basically what I would call the FBI is controlling these outcomes. Okay. They're basically meant to awaken the population because certain things happen. For example, when Trump was impeached. Okay, you're following, Insider?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Trump was impeached, and he said, "Okay, everybody, no, actually, Joe Biden was the corrupt individual in Ukraine,
Right.
and everything that went on." And people had to watch Trump be impeached to then learn about Joe Biden's corruption. Are you following?
Right,
So
I get it.
Right. So everything that's happening to Trump is kind of controlled by the FBI. But the real investigation, what really is happening, is actually related to Devon Archer, Patrick Ho, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and all leads to Barack Obama, which was basically Barack Obama was a traitor, and he was doing things specifically to organize the communist takeover of the Western world.
So do you think that these indictments of Trump are part of that awakening, or do you think that's part of the DOJ coming after Trump and trying to stop him for the next president?
No, like we've talked about, it's the setting of the stage, which means what is happening is not meant for people who are awake right now. It's meant for people who are completely asleep, who don't understand what's happening. It's meant to basically lead to what is going to happen with Barack Obama and Joe Biden and crew. It'll be absorbable when it happens. So for Barack Obama and Joe Biden and people to do serious time, Trump unfortunately has to be charged with some offenses. It's something that what is happening is that people are being unplugged through a general drip of information, which is leading to people kind of becoming anti-communist. At the same time, the truth is coming out one by one. And we talked about this, like, you and me talked about this on a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
We had talked about how Devon Archer was on Tucker Carlson last week. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So what did Devon Archer say? He was like, oh, Tucker Carlson, like I do apologize. We did sell access to Joe Biden to foreign governments, and it was just a phone call. So first they told you that Trump was the one that was corrupt, and then they told you actually it was Biden, and then they told you, okay, well, Hunter Biden got a plea deal and it was nothing and he's not corrupt, and then he was sniffing cocaine in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
right? And then, okay, he is corrupt. And then, okay, we sold, we sold access to Joe Biden, etc. We're really sorry. The next step is, okay, we sold the U.S. nuclear secrets to China, and we did all this open access to all these email secret access programs ahead of this war with Zelensky and Putin. And the population understanding the truth, which is that our politicians are basically working with our enemies and are aiding the communists while setting up kind of this war for us to go into, is quite possibly the biggest red pill that the Western world will ever have to be swallowed, or ever will swallow, I should say. So when people are kind of focused on all these incongruencies right now, understand that they're being basically unplugged, and people want to know what's going on. Eventually, everybody, once they have enough people kind of conspiratorial that what the heck is going on, like this is weird, they'll then serve up the truth for them. There you go. And the truth, unfortunately, as we talked about on the show Insider, is not necessarily what people want to hear. Like, the truth is a great thing to understand it, but the truth, the Pandora's box, is going to change the entire world. And the way people think about politics, the way they think about the planet, the way they think about how there is a power and control battle going on right now. Hence why Warren Buffett is like, I'm pulling all my money out of a semiconductor facility in Taiwan, because they know there's going to be a war. Like, by the end of Barack Obama's presidency, the communist conspiracy was basically going to have the Western world by the throat. We would be relished to the least powerful side by a long shot.
Right.
And they would be coercing complete control on us through various means that I've talked about on my website. So, as we've talked about, this is not just a battle about the Bud Light guy. This goes all the way down. And if you go all the way down, it's not a good thing. What are your thoughts?
Well, the Bud Light guy this is just a sideshow. So it's not important. The Bud Light guy, the Barbie movie, all these kind of things, these are just sideshows. They're not relevant to the main course. And
Right.
I'm agreeing with you with exactly what you're saying with respect to the main course. I mean, these are just tentacles on the side. They're not the main animal.
No, all this stuff is a weapon against the Western world.
Yeah.
It's meant to defeat and control the Western world. Like, if you can't believe in men and women and the existence of men and women, and your society has been so demoralized that there's no subjective truth about whatsoever anything, then how can you have a functioning society where people go to work, pay their taxes, and everybody kind of gets along? And you can't have it. And this is why it's, Russia and China are doing the exact opposite, which is they're not teaching their kids this shit in their schools.
And they're openly saying that. I mean,
and they're openly saying that,
they're
because
openly saying that.
it's a war and it's a battle.
Yeah.
And if you understand the war, if you understand the battle, Barack Obama was a traitor of the USA. And if you understand what he was doing, he was setting up the communist dream world that they have fantasized about since 1945. I mean, he was planning the surrounding of Israel with ISIS. The Soviet Union has always funded the Middle Eastern nations in their fight against Israel. They have dreamed about taking out Israel. All the Middle Eastern nations have hated Saudi Arabia for its alliance with the U.S. or the infidel. They've hated that the U.S. has kind of, made Islam kind of weaker and more gentle. They don't want that. And, look at Taiwan. Look at the semiconductors we talked about. Like, the whole power structure of the entire world was going to be basically taken away from the Western world by the end of Hillary's presidency.
Right.
And Zelensky and the UN are begging America to come along for this fight right now. And it's been going on for a year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, this is the most crazy fight we've ever seen, because if Russia really wanted to annihilate Ukraine, they could have done it in a very short period of time. So this defies any logic that over a year and they're still battling each other, and with just the promise that maybe Ukraine is going to enter NATO. And what does that mean? That's going to start World War III if Ukraine ever was part of NATO.
Yeah, and let's go to the Patreon now. We're going to take our listeners to the Patreon. We're going to talk about some more of this kind of battle that's been happening. So let's go there right now.